Not guilty. That is what the jury decided today.
Town slut Casey Anthony will soon be free to enter every dirty banana eating contest, popsicle squatting contest, and world's deadliest snatch contest in Orlando.
If you found a way to cheat in life, would you do it? This cheat will get you out of any problem you face and give you everything you could ever want. You can be friends with people you've never even met. You can flunk out of college, yet still graduate with honors. You could even leave behind all your responsibilities to live your life completely for yourself. Would you take this cheat? Most of us would likely say no. We would say that cheating life sounds insane. It's immoral. It can't possibly work. Yet some people learn this cheat early in life.
Because my next thing will be down to trial thing, and we'll have a court order to get her. If that's what you want to play, we'll do it, and you'll never. Well, then you have one more day. No, I'm not giving you another day. I've given you a month. All right, can I start?
911, what's the address? What's happening?
I have someone here that I need to be arrested in my home.
They're there right now?
I have a possible missing child. I have a 3-year-old that's been missing for a month.
A 3-year-old?
Yes.
Have you reported that?
I'm trying to do that now, ma'am.
Okay, what did the person do that you need arrested?
My daughter.
For what?
For stealing an auto and stealing money. I already spoke with someone. They said they would patch me through the Orlando Sheriff's Department, have a deputy here. I was in the car. I was going to drive her to the police station, and no one's open. They said they would bring a deputy to my home when I got home to call them.
911, what's your emergency?
I called a little bit ago. The deputy sheriff said I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. Her mother finally admitted that she's been missing.
Okay, what is
here now?
Okay, what is the address that you're calling from?
We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl. So, my daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her.
Your daughter admitted that the baby is where?
But the babysitter took her a month ago that my daughter's been looking for. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. And she just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Okay, what is the 3-year-old's name?
Caylee. Caylee. Anthony.
Caylee Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, is she white, black, or Hispanic?
She's white.
How long has she been missing for?
I have not seen her since the 7th of June.
On July 15, 2008, Cassie's parents received a notice about the family car that Cassie was using. It had been impounded and was being held in a garage. Cassie's father went to pick up the car, but when he opened it up, he was hit with a distinctive odor. There was nothing unusual in the car. But Cassie's dad had been a police officer for years, and he could immediately recognize that foul smell, as that was the smell of a decomposing body. Cassie's parents urgently asked where their granddaughter was, to which Cassie said she had been kidnapped by her nanny 31 days ago. Cassie isn't panicked like her mom about her missing daughter. Instead, Cassie is composed and reserved. She has to be asked by the operative multiple times to tell her basic details about the case.
Hey, Sheriff's Department, they want to talk to you. Answer the question. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Well, can you tell me what's going on a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell me a little bit what's going on?
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days.
And you know who has her?
I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today, now from a number that is no longer in service. I did get to speak to my daughter for about a minute.
Okay, did you guys call and report a vehicle stolen?
Yes, my mom did.
Okay, so there's been a vehicle stolen too?
No, this was my vehicle.
What vehicle was stolen?
It's a 98 Pontiac Sunfire.
Okay, I have deputies on the way to you right now for that. But now your 3-year-old daughter is missing. Caylee Anthony.
Yes.
White female.
Anthony. Yes, white female.
3 years old. 8/9/2005 her date of birth.
Yes.
And you last saw her a month ago?
31 days. From 31 days.
Who has her? Do you have a name?
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez-Gonzalez.
Who is that? Babysitter?
She's been my nanny for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago?
I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
Okay. Can you give me the name of the nanny again? Like spell it out for me?
Zenaida, Zenaida.
Last name? Fernandez?
-Gonzalez. I think the officers are here.
The officers are there?
Yes.
This is the opposite kind of reaction you'd expect from a parent when their child has gone missing. Cassie is taken into a room where she can talk to detectives. There, she explains the situation. She tells them everything she knows and all the people who are relevant in this situation. Caylee Anthony was a distressed mother who desperately wanted to find her kidnapped daughter, Caylee. She had been taken away by her longtime nanny, Zenaida Fernandez-Gonzalez, who ran away with Caylee after picking her up in June 2008. Casey had met Zenaida nearly 4 years prior through a mutual friend, Jeffrey Michael Hopkins. Cassie had known Jeffrey from her long time as an event coordinator at Nickelodeon at Universal Studios. Casey had immense trust in Jeffrey's judgment. So when he told her about how incredible his son's nanny, or Zenaida, was, Cassie wanted to hire her to watch her own daughter, Caylee. For over 1.5 years, all seemed perfectly normal. Cassie would go over to Jeff's house most days, where she would drop off Caylee for Zenaida to watch over. There was never any concerning signs. According to Cassie, Zenaida talked so much about how she loved Caylee and adored taking care of her. One day, Cassie came home from work and knocked on Jeff's door to pick up her daughter. There was no response. Cassie tried to call Zenaida on her phone, but there was no response. Her line was disconnected. Cassie drove all over the city. She looked everywhere for any signs of her daughter or Zenaida, but came up with nothing. Cassie pleaded with the police, saying all she wanted to do was find her daughter and bring her home, to which the police assured her and said they would find the one responsible. The detectives ask if Cassie has told anyone about her daughter going missing. Cassie says she's talked to Jeffrey, as well as Juliet Lewis, a fellow event coordinator Cassie knew from Universal. After the initial briefing, detectives asked Cassie to bring them all to the place of interest, which might help them in investigating the case. Cassie gladly agreed and started taking the officers to multiple different addresses. However, all the addresses that Cassie led the police to were either fake or places that Cassie had zero connection to. At the end of the day, Cassie brought police to Universal Studios to look at her office. When they arrived, Cassie led police down a long series of hallways for nearly half an hour. They traversed the building until they came to a dead-end hallway. Cassie stood there for a moment, turned around and laughed, and admitted that she didn't actually work in the building. Up until this point, everything you've been told about Caylee Anthony and the case of her missing daughter was no more than a lie told by Cassie herself. Cassie didn't work as an event coordinator at Nickelodeon. She stood behind a kiosk, handing out photos taken on the rides. In addition, she hadn't worked at Universal Studios for nearly 2 years. Her co-worker and fellow event coordinator Juliet Lewis was a completely made-up person. Jeffrey Hopkins was real, but he described his relationship with Cassie as more of an acquaintance. He never introduced Cassie to Zenaida. They hadn't even seen each other for years. And Jeffrey, he didn't even have a son. As for Zenaida, she also did not exist. The primary suspect for the case was a mere fragment of imagination. The only bit of truth in this case was that Caylee Anthony was missing. After Cassie had been caught with an unraveled web of lies, all eyes were on her. The detectives named her the new primary suspect in the case for her missing daughter.
Right now is July 16th, 2008. It's about 13:20 hours. We're at Universal Studios. I'm here with Sergeant Allen. I'm here with Detective Happy Wells. Also here with Casey Anthony. And Casey, we talked earlier this morning, and we're working a case looking for your daughter Caylee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We came here to Universal Studios. We're sitting in a little conference room. Obviously the door isn't locked. We just closed it so we could have a little bit of privacy and talk to you. Mm-hmm. And a couple more questions came up we need to ask you about. Remember how I opened this whole thing in the morning?
Yeah.
By saying that we need to get the complete truth and the snowball effect and how it goes? Okay. We're about halfway down that hill, 3/4 down that hill, and it's a pretty big snowball, which means that there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you just for certainty that everything you've told me so far has been a lie. Since I left you this morning, mm-hmm. I've gone to every address that you've told me. I've looked up every name. I've talked to every person that you wanted me to talk to or tried to. Mm-hmm. I've reached out. I've talked to your ex-boyfriend. I've talked to Amy. I've talked to Tony. I came over here. I've already talked to all the employees. Mm-hmm. I found out all these names that you're giving me are people that either never worked here or have been fired here for a long time ago. Okay, so where we are right now is in a position that doesn't look very good for you. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be your escape hatch, so to speak. Okay, this is going to be the point where you stop all the lies and you stop all the fibs and you tell us exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. I'm just being straight with you. Because obviously I know and you know that everything you told me is a lie, correct?
Not everything that I've told you.
Okay, pretty much everything that you've told me, including where Caylee is right now.
That I don't know where she is.
Sure you do. And here's
absolutely do not.
And I can tell you for a certainty that right now, looking at you, I know that everything that you've told me is a lie, including the fact that your child was last seen about a month ago, and that you don't know where she is. See, I'm very confident just by having talked to you this short period of time that you know where she is.
I don't.
You do. And here's the thing: we need to get past that, because we can sit here and go back and forth all day long about I don't, I do, I don't, I do. It's pretty obvious that with everything that you've told us, nothing has been truth. You know where she is. Now, my question to you is this. We need to find Caylee. I understand that right now, Caylee may not be in very good shape. You understand what I'm saying? She may not be the way your family last remembers her. We need to find out from you where Caylee is. This right now this is going so far downhill, and this has become such a mess that we need to end it. It's very simple. We just need to end it.
I agree with you. I have no clue where she is.
This is where we see the experience of Cassie's lying come into play. Cassie had an extensive history of being a compulsive liar. She learned from a young age that she could tell lies to her parents and friends to get out of trouble and avoid consequences. It was a combination of her skill to fabricate details, as well as the unwillingness of her parents to call her out on suspicious details, that allowed Cassie to get away with pretty much whatever she pleased. In college, Cassie decided she didn't want to attend any of her classes anymore, though despite this, she still spun the narrative to people that she still was attending her courses, getting amazing grades, and was on track to graduate. Her parents received phone call after phone call from the college explaining that Cassie was skipping classes. But Cassie always did have an excuse. There was always some system error or some valid and excusable reason why she definitely had to miss class. Where most children would be reprimanded, Cassie was believed by her parents. Whether they actually believed their daughter's lies or simply did not want to face the truth, this was the story they accepted. By the time graduation came around and the school had called one last time to tell Cassie's parents why she wasn't graduating, it was just explained as another system error. Their daughter said she actually graduated with honors, so that's exactly the story they passed on to friends and family. They allowed Cassie full dominion to write their reality, one where she was a golden child who just seemed to be in unfortunate circumstances that made her unfairly look bad. With this background in mind, it's no wonder why or how Cassie grew up to be a compulsive liar and present herself in the way she wanted to be seen. She could keep inflating herself up as an amazing person without putting in any sincere effort. She made herself look smarter and more responsible than her actions would suggest. When Casey got pregnant with Caylee, she denied the pregnancy to her parents up until the day she gave birth, all in an attempt to save her face. It's impossible to say, but it seems as though this unexpected pregnancy was the start of the perception change for Cassie's parents. Here was their grandchild, living proof that no matter how many times Cassie makes a claim, there was no denying the truth that was right in front of them. Detectives on the case are rightfully furious at Cassie after her lies had led them on a wild goose chase to random addresses and the Universal Studios office that she didn't even work at. The detectives kept accusing Cassie, saying that there was no reason for her to have lied to them like that unless she thought there was something they'd accuse her of if they found her daughter.
If I knew in any sense where she was, this wouldn't have happened at all.
You
it
know,
wouldn't have happened
listen,
whatsoever.
This stuff about Zanny, the caretaker or the nanny taking care of him,
It's the truth.
it's not the truth because it went to the apartment complex. There's no person that ever lived there by that name. The apartment's been vacant since March. That same apartment. Now the apartment that you pointed out to me, the 2-story apartment, that's an old folks home. It's right across the street from your ex-boyfriend's house, who you never mentioned. And you said you wrote the address down because it was across the street. That's a lie because I've already talked to him and we've already been by the house and we've already looked at everything we need to look at over there. Mm-hmm. Everything you told us is a lie. Well, now there's a couple of ways that this goes. Right now, we can, I've never met you before, so I can look at you in a couple of ways. Mm-hmm. I can look at you as a person who's scared, who's concerned, and who's kind of afraid of what's going to happen because of something bad that happened before. Or we can look at you as cold, callous, and a monster who doesn't care, who's just trying to get away with something something bad that happened and trying to cover it up. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of those two options.
Instead of denying these allegations and getting emotional, Cassie stays calm and responds with quick and sharp answers, like, yeah, or mm-hmm.
Which way is this going to go? Are you a person who's scared about the consequences of what happened? Are you scared about something that happened? Or are you really this cold, callous person who doesn't care about what happened? It's one of these two options.
I'm scared that I don't know where my daughter is.
See,
I would not have put my entire family.
Hold on. I want to ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, you seem like a pretty bright person. Okay, you're here willingly, right? You're here because you're here to try to help, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Your whole reason for talking to us is to try to help, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's forced you to talk to us, right?
No.
You want us to. You're here because you called. You want us to help find your daughter, right? Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you something. I want you to put yourself in somebody else. Put yourself in my shoes for a minute, okay? Since you talked to him this morning in an attempt to try to help find your daughter, you've given him bad addresses, okay? You drove me all the way out here. We walked from the gate back here on the way to your office, right? Mm-hmm. Okay? To an office that you don't have. We got all the way into the building, into the hallway out here before you finally says, well, I really don't have an office here. But up until then, we were walking to your office, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so does any of this make sense to you?
I understand how well that sounds.
No.
Cassie will confirm what's being said to her, then give her excuse to try and give herself a way out. This behavior is completely out of place within the given context. and it more closely resembles talking to a friend at a bar than being interrogated by police.
How would you see that person different than you might see somebody, maybe a young mother who made a mistake and, maybe initially was afraid to tell the truth, but at some point came forward and said, horrible thing happened. I'm sorry. I feel terrible about it, but I have to tell you.
The horrible thing that happened, and this is the honest to God's truth of everything that I've said, I do not know where she is. The last person that I saw her with is Zenaida. She's the last person that I've seen my daughter with.
According to 2 professional psychologists, they both stated that they saw no signs of mental disorders leading to compulsive lying like this. The only reason Cassie was lying was because she learned that this was the way to make herself look good and avoid trouble. Cassie would lie so frequently that her persona in an intense investigation was the same as any other daily activity. Cassie also showed remarkable skills in coming up with details on the spot that make her lies more believable. For example, Juliet Lewis, the co-worker that didn't exist, had an entire backstory for her character. Cassie gave details about how they worked together and what that was like.
Who else did you talk to about this besides Jeffrey? You said you tried to call Zenaida's mom. You talked to Jeffrey. Who else did you talk about?
I talked to Juliet Lewis. She's one of my coworkers at Universal.
She works. You still work at Universal?
Yes.
What do you do at Universal?
I'm an event coordinator.
Okay. What is Juliet? What position is she? Where she works?
She's also an event coordinator. We work in the same department.
You have a number for Juliet?
Offhand, I can't think of one.
Is she in your SIM card?
No, she's not. Some of the more recent numbers, her number just changed because she just moved back up north. She, within the last 2 months, has finished moving up to New York. She's subleasing her apartment.
So Juliet doesn't work at Universal anymore?
No, she does not.
When did she leave Universal?
About 2 months ago.
Unless you knew Juliet was a fake person, you'd be tempted to believe Cassie's confidence and assuredness that Juliet really was out of town. The same with Zenaida, the non-existent nanny. When police couldn't find her record and concluded she was fake, she had stories to explain it. From Zenaida properly going back to New York because she grew up there. Or it was yet another system error that was conspiring against her. After criminal investigators picked up on these strategies, they decided that nothing out of Cassie's mouth could be trusted. Cassie was arrested and declared the primary suspect for the death of her daughter. While in captivity, Cassie was gaining quite a bit of support from the public. While she was locked away, her parents were busy sharing the word about Caylee, who was assumed to still be alive. Cassie continued to push the narrative that the police didn't know what they were doing, that they weren't even trying to find the imaginary Zenaida, because they wanted to convict her instead. At one point, Cassie's parents came to visit her in prison, to let her know what was going on outside, and to reassure her that they would find Caylee.
Good morning.
Good morning, beautiful. I love you.
Hi, I love you too. Why is she crying already?
Because we haven't seen you. So what else is going on with you?
Nothing. The usual. Just, I guess, waiting around. Those are new shirts. I like those.
Yes, those are. The Never Lose Hope Foundation did these for us, so.
I like those a lot. Those are really nice.
Yeah, those are really sweet.
Hey, sweetie. Hi, Mom. Well, I lasted a minute. How are you feeling? We're not doing well, kids. None of us.
This conversation reveals some interesting insights into Cassie's personality. Whenever the conversation is about Cassie, there is a visible reaction. Cassie starts to tear up and becomes more emotionally responsive to her parents instead of having the straightforward persona she always puts on. However, whenever the conversation is about her daughter, Cassie becomes emotionally absent and returns to her cold and emotionless personality.
Well, someone just said that Caylee was dead this morning, that she drowned in the pool. That's the newest story out there.
Surprise, surprise.
I want you to realize something. Number one, or at least number 1.1 and number 1 should be you and Caylee. That's the way it should be. It shouldn't be
it's
Jose,
split,
then you, then Caylee, and everything else is falling in line. It's it has to be you two, you and your daughter. It's got to be the ones that's got to be focused on you.
Well, he's focusing on Caylee and I. You guys are focusing on Caylee. I know I'm still part of your focus, but she's your main focus, and I understand that. Dad, I know where everybody's priorities lie. I knew that the day that I got here.
What's also strange in this talk is that Cassie seems to become more unsettled as her parents talk about the support the investigation is getting. Her parents excitedly talk about how Caylee's picture is going to be on People magazine, which was read by tens of millions of people. The parents talked about how much it helped the investigation and gather the support to find her. Yet, despite the news, Cassie remains stoic.
So, we need to have something to go on.
Mom, I don't have anything. I'm sorry. I've been here a month. I've been here a month today. Do you understand how I feel?
Then again, I want to bring up this thing about you being the boss. You're the one that can control everything. You're the one.
No, Dad. Please.
Sweetie. Okay,
I'm
sweetie,
completely.
I'm not trying to get you upset. I'm trying to.
No,
talk to
but
you.
I am upset now. I'm completely upset. One, the media's gonna have a frickin' field day with this.
No.
I wasn't even supposed to take this. Let me speak for a second, Dad. I let everybody talk.
Okay.
They're not releasing it. Well, I hope not. I'll keep saying whatever I have to about the police, so they don't let it go. Can someone let me? Come on.
Cassie states that anyone trying to help doesn't really know what they're talking about. This is a response that only makes sense to the context of not wanting to find Caylee. Investigations gave near-conclusive evidence to prove Cassie was guilty of killing her own daughter. In the family car that Cassie drove, there were strong compositions of elements that are typically released by decomposing bodies. In the trunk, there were hairs that were confirmed to have belonged to Caylee, showing she was held in the car's trunk at some point. There was evidence that showed Cassie was the last person to be with her daughter on the day of her disappearance. In addition, the skeletal remains of Caylee's dead body were found in a nearby swamp with duct tape over where the nose and mouth used to be, suggesting death by suffocation. On the day of Caylee's disappearance, Cassie made internet searches that included shot girl costumes, suffocation, and foolproof suffocation. From a reasonable perspective, the only motive Cassie had to lie about her own daughter's whereabouts was for her own benefit, to cover anything incriminating against her. One where she could do whatever she pleased. In the weeks following Caylee's death, Cassie frequently went to clubs, partied, got a tattoo that said Bella Vita, or Beautiful Life. With all the evidence, the state charged Cassie Anthony with first-degree murder. Gradually, the public opinion shifted and was seeing Cassie as the murderer.
George, you're a coward! Casey, you are a baby!
Prosecutors decided to pursue the death penalty, and with the evidence painting a clear picture, it was looking like this sentence was inevitable.
As we have heard several times throughout the course of the jury selection proceedings, this is the case of the state of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony.
Jose Baez was assigned as Cassie's lawyer, and he had a challenging task ahead of him. The state had a strong case to prove guilt based on evidence, as well as Cassie's behavior and lack of empathy. Baez's goal was to utilize the principle of innocent until proven guilty. If he could make the jury doubt the evidence or leave any room for alternate explanations, they had a chance. Baetz also knew he needed to cover Cassie's reputation for being apathetic towards her daughter's death and try to portray her as sympathetic. Essentially, Baetz's strategy was to fight facts with emotions and doubt. In the court, Baetz effectively offered alternate explanations for the evidence brought forward. He spoke of conspiracy theories and kept reminding the jury that a person cannot be sentenced until all doubt of guilt was removed. Baetz explained Cassie's behavior by saying she was sexually abused by her father growing up.
See, this family must keep its secrets quiet. And it all began when Caylee was 8 years old and her father came into her room and began to touch her inappropriately. And it escalated. And it escalated. What does a sex abuse survivor look like? They wear a scarlet letter? They have a tattoo on their forehead? We could all be sitting next to a person who's a sex abuse survivor and never even know it.
Whether this is true is unclear at best. Considering Cassie's dubious reputation, according to Baetz, Cassie had to learn how to put on a brave face through hardships. That even though she was sexually abused, she had to go to school and pretend like everything was fine. This was an alternate interpretation of Cassie's actions, one that held her up as a victim of trauma who wouldn't know how to act in a desperate situation like this. This reason didn't explain away all of Cassie's actions, but with enough stories like this to doubt every piece of evidence individually, there was space to doubt the entire picture that the evidence created. Media outlets even pointed this strategy out, stating that there was no counter-evidence or reasonable dismissal of the existing evidence. The defense's argument was essentially just excuse after excuse to make the jury doubt the facts. In a way, this is exactly the type of defense that is perfect for defending someone like Cassie Anthony, since it's exactly the type of defense that she would produce for herself. On July 5th, 2011, in a tremendous upset, the jury found the defendant, Cassie Anthony, to not be guilty of murdering Caylee Anthony.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we...
The only crime she was found guilty of was lying to the police, to which she was sentenced to 4 years of prison, 3 of which were already served throughout the trial. This ruling came with immense backlash from the public and news outlets alike.
Not guilty! No!
What the heck is in that jury room? Are you nuts?
Disbelief sweeps the nation after Cassie Anthony learned her fate.
Speechless. Absolutely speechless.
Not guilty. That is what the jury decided today in Cassie Anthony's murder.
It was a ruling that made no sense, considering all the evidence provided to the case. But, just as usual, with enough doubt and audience willing to listen, Cassie Anthony once again found a way to avoid the truth, as well as the consequences that come with it.